Join me behind the scenes as I introduce you to my friends, the people who make your favorite films and TV shows, the people who make the sounds of Hollywood. Hi, I'm your host, Micha Lieberman, and welcome to the Sounds of Hollywood. We have an incredibly special guest today, someone who I was fairly certain I would never get in here, that many people refer to as the James Brown of post-production sound, the hardest working man in the industry, John Cook. There is almost never a time when I'm at Universal that I can't pop my head into stage A and say hello to John, because he is always there. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Mika. I'm glad we could carve out an hour for this.
Yeah, an hour of your time is really surprisingly valuable.
I've always loved talking to you, Mika.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think that when you run out of all the sound resources that are out there, which may take you 5 or 6 years or 10 years or whatever, you're gonna have to do your own podcast where you talk about your political ideas and your social ideas, your cultural ideas, because I've always enjoyed over the years just
listening to me shoot my mouth off.
Exactly.
Well, you say over the years, we have known each other for many, many years. What's interesting is we started at almost exactly the same time, mid-90s, right? You started here, 94?
I was 90. I think I started mixing in 94. Yeah, 93-ish, 94.
And unlike, we've had a couple of re-recording mixers in here. One of whom we just found out you were mixing with yesterday.
Yeah, Milo and I were.
That's funny. We've had a couple, and the interesting thing is that people tend to, by the time they get to the job of re-recording mixer, which we'll talk about in a second, people tend to have climbed some sort of ladder. They've done like 50 sound jobs for 10 years. And I pop up your credits and I look, and you've got one credit as a sound editor on a short, and then re-recording mixer.
Yeah.
Right to the chair.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I mean, it's interesting for me because I skipped a lot of, I listened to your conversation with Milo, and it was really interesting to see how many different job titles he had, learning the trade and learning all the intricacies of what we do before he hits the chair. For me, there was so much just trying to figure out how to do it after I just coincidentally ended up in the chair. I mean, the way that I started was like you. I wanted to be a film composer. So I came out here and I did that USC film scoring program. I think they still have that program. Just came out for a year, did that.
Gabriel Mann, another one of our guests, did that same program.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I tried my hand at it for about 4 years, I think.
To be a film composer.
Film composer, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was doing some film scores, and I did pretty well with commercials for a little bit. I had a couple of good clients for a couple of years. And then I had my first child, and it was, I just kind of ran out of patience economically to hang in there with it. I always felt like I was, didn't quite have the same chops of someone like Gabriel. I think in the end, the sound business ends up being a great plan B for a lot of us musicians.
There are a lot of musicians in the industry. I didn't realize that you came out here to be a film composer. I knew what a great musician you were because I spent an evening jamming with you in your living room,
right.
Which was really fun. But when you were composing, were you doing your own music production, like your own mixing and your own?
Yes. Yeah. I always loved the gear. Even in college, I was always the one to blow all my money on a 4-track or a, Roland's first guitar synthesizer, or, whatever new thing that came out that promised to make, writing music a little bit easier. And a lot of that gear crosses over to the sound world.
And what was your first job as a re-recording? It was the Larry Sanders Show, is that right?
It was, yeah.
And how did you go from scoring commercials to being the re-recording mixer on the Larry Sanders Show? It seems like a strange jump.
That's a good story. So basically, my first job out of USC, I wasn't making enough money as a composer, so I took a job in the sales department at a post-production company called the Post Group. And they had a great little department there. I think they were a bunch of guys that are still mixing. They were doing Max Headroom at the time. They were winning Emmys for that show. But I was an assistant to one of the salespeople over there, which was great training for me because it helped me learn some basic tools of interacting with clients and sort of first stages of like really learning how to be service oriented that way. Learning a little bit about the business of post-production. But I was always over hanging out in the audio department with those guys, just lurking at the door, and they were super supportive and gave me opportunities to sit in on some of those mixes and stuff. And then after about a year there, I decided to take a more aggressive leap into my composing career. And so I quit that job and had a couple few years of eating salads and trying to make it work. But the whole time I was in touch with some of those people in the sales department. And this one guy, John Williams, was one of the founding partners at a place called Hollywood Digital. And, as I was seeing that my composing career may not last forever, I'd call John occasionally and for updates about this new facility that he was building. And he, God bless him, gave me a shot in the machine room with basically no experience to basically be a mix tech for two of the mix stages that they built there. And that's how I got in at the ground floor at Hollywood Digital. And then from there, a lot more hanging around with the mixers in the two mix rooms that they had. They let me start cutting sound for the Larry Sanders Show. And the thing I always tell people about those early years at Hollywood Digital is there was a lot of chaos. There was a lot of things that the company was trying and wasn't necessarily succeeding at. I know that their intention at first was really to enter the commercial world, the commercial mixing world over there. And you don't get too many opportunities to make any mistakes in that world. If you have 2 or 3 clients that come in and don't leave happy, it can really do damage to your business. And I think with that company, they've long closed their doors, but they didn't do great in that world, and they were trying to find a footing in other markets basically there. And consequently, managers were getting fired, mixers were coming and going, techs were coming and going. And for someone like me who was, sitting in the machine room watching all this, I was able to take advantage of these little windows all over the place within the facility. And the way things happened for me on the Larry Sanders Show is after they gave me the opportunity to start cutting sound on it, the mixer at the time just came to me one night and said, I'm leaving. I'm going to New York. And the show doesn't have a re-recording mixer anymore. So I had developed a relationship with those guys at the Larry Sanders Show through Sound Editorial. And I went in at night. I had been sneaking in at night and learning the console there. And so when I got the news that the mixer was leaving, I went in, mixed an entire episode, and in my youthful, risk-taking way, I sent the producer my mix on 3/4-inch tape, basically. And the next day, a wonderful mixer that I was working with, this guy, Andre Perot. I don't know if you knew Andre. He was a mixer over at Technicolor, who passed away a few years ago. We had a meeting that next morning. He said, I just heard from the producer. Good news is you're now the mixer on the Larry Sanders Show, but in any other circumstances, I would be firing you right now.
Right. That's crazy. You're like, I went around the whole facility and I did the job that I wasn't qualified for. Exactly. And I just sent it to the client and they liked it.
Exactly. And he very resentfully gave me the job in a very sweet way. He was always Andre was amazing and supported me for years after that. But it was, and then
you never left that chair.
And I never did. No.
You just became. And when people ask you what is a re-recording mixer, how do you explain that job to people?
Basically, we re-record. The first round of recording happens on the set with production, and I'm a dialogue and music mixer. So in my case, I am taking what the production mixer has done, along with all the prep that the dialogue editor and the sound supervisor have done to prep things on my side for dialogue, and I reprint it. So I think that's where the re-recording aspect comes from.
You're making a recording of things that have already been recorded.
Yeah.
It's hard to express how many shows and movies you have been the re-recording mixer on. Like, it's both a function of the fact that you really started your career right there as a re-recording mixer. And so you didn't have the 10 years of doing other jobs to get there. And it's a function of the fact that you will work a full day and then you will have a cup of coffee and you will do another full day. You love to mix, probably more than anyone I've ever met.
I'm trying to get away from that a little bit. I don't have the same kind of stamina I had
when you were a youngin'.
But one of the things for me where the hours come in, it's always been a longing for me to try to accomplish certain things creatively that mixing in television doesn't necessarily want you to do. So budgets have gotten really a lot better in the last, especially in the last 4 or 5 years with Netflix and Apple.
Yeah, I think the streaming services have really invigorated the industry in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So now we have 5-day mixes, sometimes 6-day mixes. When I started my career, everything I started in the half-hour world. So all of those mixes were 1-day mixes. And in fact, where I really, one of my first shows I did was a show called Unhappily Ever After. And it was a multicam show. I did a lot of multicam shows back in the day.
That means it's a sitcom, but it's like in front of an audience and there's a laugh track and
Yeah. The sound build and sound mix on those shows is typically, back in those days, was the sound build, I think, was a 4 or 5 hour build. And and the sound mix was 3 or 4 hours.
That's it.
That's it
You had half a day.
for the whole thing. Yeah. And one of my first jobs on Happily Ever After, they came to me after my first mix that took 2 hours, and they were upset that it was taking so long.
You were like, you guys know it takes half an hour just to watch this thing once, right?
Exactly.
They expect you to mix in real time.
Yeah.
Well, and it is very different to do those two different kinds of sitcoms, the multicam sitcoms versus the single cam sitcoms. That's the technical terms that we use in Hollywood to differentiate them. But most people never really probably didn't realize that there's two different categories. But when they think about it, you realize that there's like this one kind that's shot almost like a play on a stage in front of an audience where you can hear the audience interacting with them. And then the other kind, sort of like, The Office, is shot more like a movie. It's shot different takes with the actors from different angles, and that has to be built the way like a movie would be built. And no one expects like a show that's shot on a stage to sound real. We expect it to sound like people on a stage, which is much not easier, but much less material to deal with than when you're trying to build a realistic world that you'd have to build on a single cam sitcom.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of comedies, and I don't know if that's a function of the fact that you started out in comedy, but you've done. What's funny? Do you have a guess on how many TV shows and films you've done total?
I know that my count on series is something like 135.
136
yeah.
is according to IMDb, which is insane. And we also know that there's probably more that are not up there. So, and that's series. That's not episodes.
Yeah.
It's thousands of episodes.
Yeah, because back in the day, they were, like on The Office, we'd get 22 episode orders for the year, and then they'd add another 4 at the end of the year.
Right. So you've done how many? And there was a couple hundred episodes of that, right?
Nine seasons of 25 each.
Yeah. So thousands of episodes of television that you've done, and movies, and not just comedies. You do dramas. You did some Law and Orders, right?
I've been trying to do more dramas in the last, 6 or 7 years now. Purely for the idea of trying to be part of something that's more polished, basically. I think that the sound builds, the sound supervisors that you tend to work with on the more prestige dramas tend to be they tend to dig in a little bit more in terms of the sound effects builds. I want to be careful not to say that the quality is there in the comedies as well, but I think that purely mixing dialogue, there's more time, and there's more prep, and there's more expectations about the
I understand what you're saying. The expectations are different in a drama than in a comedy.
Yeah.
You prefer the higher standards. You prefer them to want more from you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, going back to, even that transition from multicam comedy to single camera comedy, like when I started with Scrubs or The Office back then. I mean, The Office was a really interesting technique change for me, because where in multicams, like you said, so much has to be taken care of on the set. So, they've got special tracks up in the rafters that the microphone basically can track the actors that way. They have special, tools, and they rehearse it. So the idea is that any given take, you've got decent sounding audio, basically. Whereas
it's a much more controlled environment.
Yeah. Where with single camera stuff, there are so many more surprises on the set. You've got, location shoots. You have improvisation that happens in multicam as well, but it's a little bit when you just have the single camera shoots, it's a little bit harder to track some of that. The mixers have a little bit more of a challenge trying to make sure that they've got good audio.
And it is artistic, really, in the end. Like, part of the comfort, I think, of a multicam is that it all feels the same. It all, every episode is on the same set, in the same place with the same sounds and the same camera angles. And the reason they're called multicams is because they literally have, multiple cameras set up shooting the same play at the same time from different angles. So you can cut from one camera to the other on the same take, which is not something that, well, they do it a little bit more now, but it's not something that's generally done in traditional filmmaking. You have a single camera that's taking a single angle, and that's the primary angle that you're worried about at that moment. And that difference in camera angle, which seems like a silly thing, dictates everything. It dictates how it sounds, what the audience expects. Is there a laugh track? Is there, like, so many things that are sort of stylistic, and the dramas certainly have the highest demands in terms of making it sound real, making it sound full and clear.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what I think from this point forward is going to be known as the tragedy of 2014. 2014 is the only year since 2007. You know where I'm going, right? The only year since 2007, which was a very long time ago, that John Cook was not nominated for an Emmy. That statistic is insane. It's almost as insane as what I'm about to say out loud, which I can't believe, is 24 Emmy nominations. Many years you're nominated against yourself. 24 Emmy nominations. You have to be one of the most nominated people in the Academy.
Well, at this point, I won for Scrubs the first
2007,
year.
Your first nomination, you won. Were you nominated for 2 that year? Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly?
I think The Office got one that year.
So you're nominated against yourself, and you win. You beat yourself. So you both won and lost in 2007.
And since then, it's been a very long string of no wins. I'm starting to think that I'm just a seat filler at this point.
They're like, oh no, we need someone to, get John Cook. He'll sit in that seat again this year.
He has no expectation of winning anymore. He is very enthusiastically encouraging his peers from his chair in the audience.
You know what's funny? It's not just the Emmys, obviously. You've had 12 CAS award nominations, 12 Golden Reel nominations. And do you want to know the irony of that? Again, many years nominated against yourself. Do you know that there was one year when you were nominated for 3 awards, 3 CAS awards against yourself? Do you know what that year was?
No.
2014. Same year. The only year you were not nominated for an Emmy was the year that you crushed it at the CAS awards. Just to show you how consistent Hollywood is. The only thing we know consistently is that every year, one of the best mixed shows on television is going to be one of yours. We just know that's the only thing that's consistent, at least according to the television. 4 HPA awards.
No
nominations. I mean,
one. I think just the Deadwood, or that was there more than Deadwood?
No, yeah, you've had 4. Oh. And you've had 1 OFTA award, which is the Deadwood Award.
Right, which we worked on together.
That is an award we were nominated for together. Not the only thing we've worked on together.
Yeah.
Do you have a guess how many projects we've done together? I had to look it up.
Wow, maybe 10,
Do you remember?
12?
No, it's not that many. Do you remember what our first project was? I also had to look that up.
No, we talked about this. What was it?
1600 Pen.
Oh, okay.
The same first project with Milo. Milo was your recordist.
Right.
And you were the mixer on 1600 Pen. Since then...
Well, I did the pilot, and then I think, because I think Jason Weiner was a client.
Right, that's right. You just did the pilot.
The Russo brothers
that's
back
right.
then. Yep.
I met you on 1 episode of 1600 Pen. That's right. It was just the pilot.
Right. And then we couldn't fit it in, which has been,
which is the story
challenge.
of John Cook's life. Can't fit. Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm mixing that day. Yep. That day too. Yep. That day too. Can't fit you in. Nope. Sorry. That day too. After that, we did Trophy Wife.
All right. Yeah.
That show, there's a good example of a single cam sitcom.
Right.
And after Trophy Wife, we did Marry Me, another single cam sitcom.
We did that with David Casp.
David Casp. Those mixes went till 3 a.m.
Yeah, those were some crazy mixes. David had amazing commitment
and ears. He heard everything.
To timing of every single thing that happened on the screen.
It's one of the things that happens if you're good at writing scripts in Hollywood is they say, here, now you can run a show, and like, so you're a brilliant writer, you wrote a brilliant show. They say, okay, here, now make the show, which means now here's a crew of 300 people. You're now a manager for 300 people. You have to deal with HR issues and all that. You have to hire people. And now also here, you have to be an expert in sound and an expert in film and an expert in coloring and an expert in all of these things that most writers never thought for 1 second they were going to end up having to be responsible for. But all of a sudden, there's this job of showrunner, the one executive producer, the person whose vision we're all trying to realize, who's supposed to somehow give me notes on how to do our jobs, who probably last week didn't know our job existed.
Right.
And one of the fascinating things that I've noticed over the years is watching showrunners, especially new showrunners, sort of learn how to listen. And it's not expected that they have, audio engineer level ears, that they hear things. And it's some of them hear everything and some of them hear nothing and some of them learn to hear what's important. David heard everything, even things that I was like, what does he mean? Oh yeah, there is a tick there. I didn't hear it. Yeah. Oh yeah, that is slightly louder than that. I didn't hear it. He heard everything. And he said something that I thought was really interesting. He said, if I hear something and it bothers me, we have to fix it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. And he heard absolutely everything. And so we were there till 3 a.m. on every mix. Yeah. And
the way he was so aware of every nuance of performance. A big thing that happens with mixing on for comedies as opposed to dramas is a lot of times showrunners will expect all of the ADR that they've shot for alts, for like punch ups on jokes or for little loops that connect storylines, and that all that stuff we carry on the stage a lot of times for comedies.
So you're saying like there's a setup and maybe they had 3 or 4 different punchlines and they haven't decided which joke is funniest. Yes. And so they have you have all 4 punchlines ready.
Yeah.
And they'll decide in the moment, like. Yeah.
And especially David, he was, we would sometimes listen to 25 different alts on the performance of a particular character. And in that show, a lot of times it was ensemble work too. So you'd have layers of the whole group responding to something. And the thing about David is you'd spend all that time, but you would, in the end, you always walked away knowing that it's better than how it started.
Yeah, he wasn't making things up. What he was hearing was like really there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that was sort of my experience, was like, okay, I'm going to John's stage. We're going to be there till 2 a.m. Then we get our next show that we did together. The Kids Are All Right with Tim Doyle.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the exact opposite experience, right? We'd mix the show, the showrunner, Tim. Now, and this was a show written by Tim about Tim's childhood, about Tim's family, like very important to him, takes it very seriously, like, his own personal story. And he comes in every week, sits down in the front on the couch, laughs and laughs at all the jokes, all his own jokes that he wrote that were, objectively worth the laughs, hilarious. And he's laughing and laughing and then gets up and's like, great job, guys. See you next week. And walks out the door. And that happened like every week. It was like, oh, I guess
we would have to stop him at the door. Like, are you sure that loop at 20 minutes was okay? Wait.
Yeah, right. We'd had some questions. Hang on a second. Wait. And he's just, good job, guys. Loved it. Out the door. And I was like, well, I guess this makes up for all the late nights with, we're going home early.
Yeah.
It's funny how the personality of the showrunner really affects everything.
Yeah.
What's important to them has to become important to you. And what they like has to turn into what you like. And, I always say, like, there's a range of correct answers to any problem. Like beyond this line, the dialogue is too loud. Below this line, it's too quiet. And in between, it's just taste.
Yeah.
And there's all those answers are right. And a lot of people have extreme tastes, which are still okay, but you get in a situation where, like, maybe you like it one way and a showrunner likes it another way. And there's plenty of wrong answers on the other side of the line that are closer to what the showrunner wants than your right answer, which is all the way on the other side of taste. And so you can never meet in the middle. Like, it just, everything he likes sounds wrong to you, or to me, just to the person. And everything you like sounds wrong to them. And one of the things that I feel like you are a master of is, like, finding the taste of the client and changing your own, I don't even want to say personality, but it's like your own expectations instantly morph to, like, the best version of what the client likes.
Thank you, Mika. That's a big compliment, man.
And it's an incredible skill, because it's working across all these different genres and working with all these different clients really requires you to not only have your own quote unquote sound, but to morph it to all these different situations. And I really feel like you are, like, one of the best at that.
Thank you, Mika. I mean, it's what you do with music is, I think, more difficult because there's a lot more range for trying to find the right piece of music to work for a showrunner. So I think the range of what I need to do is a little bit smaller, but it brings up a topic that might be interesting to talk about for a second. That is, when you have to mix a show in a day, you really, as a mixer, you don't have enough time to make sure that you've presented what you think your best version is first, and then hand it off to the showrunners to then critique it and fine tune it. And that is another sort of response to why I'm, trying to do longer, bigger and bigger budget stuff. So I have the time to be sure that I present what I think is the best thing first. Because once I have the opportunity to present that, I've grown to learn to really not need to hold on to that any longer. What's frustrating for me is when I can never get to that point. So if they give me the time to present it in the best light that I think of, then they can sit and fine tune it and change it all they want. And I know in my heart, that I've had the opportunity to, at least once, to present what my vision is,
Yeah. And that's a really big part of it, is, like, figuring out, I only have X amount of time. What's important? Like, what's worth fixing and what's not? Like, what do I let go? And the last project we did together, funny you said that, was one of those where we had the time and the resources to really make something sound how we all wanted it to sound.
Yeah.
And that was the Deadwood feature. And that for me was obviously incredibly special. My first Emmy nomination and win was for the pilot of Deadwood 20 years before. Wow. And then my second Emmy nomination was for that feature that we did together. And it's like, it never happens that you get to come back 20 years later and work on the same project. And I got this call that was like, we're getting the band back together as much as we can. And it was this, on the music side, we had the same team. We had the same composers, Reinhold Heil and Johnny Klimek, and I came back as a music editor. And the effects mixer came back, Bill Friesch, but our dialogue mixer was not available. So you filled in, maybe not the wrong. You took over and sat with Bill, because at the time you and Bill were partners at that point, right? So Bill came back because he was the original effects mixer, and you came with him as his partner to mix the dialogue. And we moved from your television mixing stage, which is, you know, an incredibly beautiful room, probably the size of like, if it were not a mixing stage, it would be like, I don't know, how do you describe the size of that room? It's like as big as like a
big living room.
It's bigger than that. It's like a very large room, you know?
Yeah.
To this incredible stage where we mixed Deadwood, like onto the feature stage in this, what is essentially just a theater.
Yep. Stage 6. Universal.
Yep. It's Universal Stage 6. And I go from sitting behind you on a producer's desk on your thing to like this music editor, like alcove built into this gorgeous stage. Each editor has their own station, and
we needed megaphones to communicate.
Yeah. I was like, let me get up and walk across the room so I can whisper something in John's ear. And like, what was interesting about that was that the director of the movie was not an original director of the series, and he had this incredibly impossible task of modernizing this thing, making it feel modern and feel new and fresh without violating any of the idioms of the old Deadwood.
Yeah.
And that was a song and dance. Yeah. And
without, by the time we got to mixing, without David Milch's vision, right? Because he was having health issues. And
Milch was having, away. Yeah. And Milch was gone. And the original showrunner was in New York. And so Greg Feinberg was in New York.
Yep.
So we were doing post without Milch and with Greg on the phone. And one of the things that was very different between them, what at least was one of the things we had tried to do to make it feel more modern was put a lot more music in it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of defined the original Deadwood was there was very little music in it. And so we get to the dub stage, and Greg flies in from New York. We've been mixing this, I don't know, weeks. We'd been
3 weeks.
3 weeks we'd been mixing it. And Greg flies in from New York, and we hit play, and we're like 10 minutes into the playback. Remember? And Greg just stands up. He's like, stop.
What is all this music?
What is all this music? And, you know, he had heard every cue and approved every cue, and every cue was right and good in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you finally put them all together and watched it like a movie, it just didn't feel like Deadwood. It was just too much. Yeah. And I feel like if we hadn't had that time on that stage to have that experience, the project would have been very different.
Yeah.
And it was really like you feel it and you feel it, but then once the mixer puts it all together, then you feel it. Mm-hmm. Then you really get a sense of what the show's going to feel like. And that was wrong. And we kind of didn't realize it until that moment.
Yeah. And then you and I had an exercise in auditioning cues and, you know, showing scenes with music, without music, with shortened versions. The collaboration that you and I had on that project was pretty unique.
It was. Man. I've never had.
You
that
and I had
before.
Really had to work very closely.
I'm sitting off in the side like booth, and you are handing me control of the dub stage on my little side system, and I'm like, you know, pressing play over from the side, and like, you know, something that, you know, music editors never have to do, you know, and we are like literally, we're hitting the stage back and forth, just trying to figure out like, how about this scene? How about this scene? What if we take this out? What if we make this shorter? What if we take this out? What if we make, and then of course, once we take the music out, now the scene sounds different. Now you got to remix it.
Exactly.
And so it's not like, let me mute the music and press play. It's like, let me mute the music, and as quickly as possible with only someone who'd spent years with half a day to mix a TV show.
Right.
Let me just audition what this would sound like if we did take the music out.
Yeah.
And we took a lot of music out. A lot.
I think it took us at least 2 days, right?
Yeah,
2.5 days
that we didn't plan on.
Sit there with all the HBO executives and negotiate with Greg, basically, who was like, pull it all out.
I wanted to pull it all out too. As a music editor, I'm supposed to be a champion of put the music in and turn it up every time, but like I said, Deadwood had a style and a feel, and it was, it was an impossible task. Like, make it sound modern and make it sound like Deadwood, make it sound new and old at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was like an impossible task. And there was really no way to do it other than to do it, to just go through it and do it.
And that was also like a pretty kind of quintessential experience in, there's a lot of nervous producers sitting there behind the credenza. And part of our job is to make everyone feel like, yeah, this is a challenge, but we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, we got it. No
we're
worries.
going to figure this out together. And
even when they costs thousands of dollars a minute, we have no idea what we're doing. There's a whole crew of HBO executives sitting behind us, and the executive producer, and the director. And go ahead, you guys got it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of music editors would have crumbled in that moment.
Yeah, I think we kind of made it. I wouldn't say we made it fun for them, but we made it as pleasant of an experience as we could have for them, which is half of what we do. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. There has not been a single person who's come into this podcast who hasn't talked in some level about what part of helped them learn the customer service part of it, the pleasing a client part of it.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of our business. And especially in my job, because, I've got the composer on one side, I've got telling me what he wants. I've got the mixer on another side telling what he wants. I've got the producers on the other side telling me what they want.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there is what I want. And, it's, and in the end, it all has to be right. And everyone has to be happy. And right is a amorphous concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you obviously had a very different beginning. Like your journey to the chair is unique. Like I guess that's true for everybody, but nobody could possibly follow your path. Here's what you do. Get a job at a failing company and wait until somebody leaves in the middle of the night and then strike. Like that, Is there some sort of advice that you give to people who want to do what you do? Like how to get into that chair someday?
I have 3 kids. My son's 23 years old. I think that the Gen Zers, Gen Xers,
I don't know where the line is.
The
youngins. They
have a natural ability to say, yeah, I'm not gonna do, that's not right for me. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna put myself in a position where I've got to work these amount of hours or doing something that I don't want to be doing. And, as a boomer myself, I feel like, my first reaction is, no, you got to put the time in. You got to do the work. You got to put the hours in. Like
pay your dues.
Yeah. But time and time again, I'm being shown by that generation that the way that we did it isn't necessarily the way that you need to do it anymore. So I'm still learning about how to give advice, that resonates with young people, because I do think that putting in the hours is still, vitally important. But do you have to wait 15 years to get the opportunity to get in the mixed chair? I'm not sure. If you do, I think that risk taking, that we have when we're young, not all, certainly with me, I think some people are able to maintain that throughout their whole lives. With me, I had a lot of it when I was young, and I stopped having as much of it as I was growing. But I think that,
well, when you're getting nominated for an Emmy every year, at some point you're just like, I'll just ride this one to 24 nominations. Don't have to take any risks at this point.
Well, we both want to be working on the most creative stuff that we can get our hands on. We both want to be sitting on a stage that we're inspired, by what we're seeing on the screen. So I still have aspirations, but my willingness to do something crazy like I did in the beginning of my career, where would ruffle feathers and would come off as really not the right way to do something. I think that young people have the natural ability to not have that filter the way that we do as we get older. So that's the thing that I try to sort of nurture in everybody. Like we don't know what big break that someone's going to, what opportunity that young people need to recognize that might be in front of them for them to say, oh, here's the door opening that's been presented to me, that I have to put everything aside and open that door for myself.
I wonder maybe if it's not so much that the risk taking seems scarier now, but maybe that it doesn't make as much sense as it did back then. And really what I think it is it's the passion, and that continues. So that makes you take risks when it's smart to take risks. And now, it makes you work 80-hour weeks. That it's what you said before about it's never enough. Like I mentioned 24 Emmy nominations, and the first thing out of your mouth is like, well, yeah, I didn't win any. Only won. Yeah, only one. Boy, some people like just being on the ballot once is like the pinnacle of their career. But there is something about sort of this shared sense of it's not good enough. It's never enough, that I think drives a lot of the successful people in Hollywood. And that makes you take risks when you're younger, and it makes you go for more, I need bigger budgets when you're, John Cook. And like, it's just never enough. And that's like a blessing and a curse, because it drives you, but it also keeps you awake at night and makes it real hard to ever feel like you've landed. And like one of the things that I notice about a lot of the most successful people in Hollywood is they don't want to admit that they're amongst the most successful people in Hollywood. Why do you think that is?
It's a really interesting question, because I know how introspective you are too. I mean, I've been thinking about this more and more for the last 7, 8, 10 years. And I do feel like I've gotten a little bit more of a handle on sort of really appreciating your accomplishments, really, in our case, appreciating the craft that we've worked so hard to build and try to master. I can sleep at night pretty easily these days, knowing that, that it's not mastery, but it's, it's, we've journeyed pretty far into that goal of mastery, I think, of what it is that we're doing.
You just did it right now. If your level of skill is not mastery, then what is?
Well, I'll tell you the things that I'm still learning. That's the other part we haven't even talked about is, how we're constantly, technology, first of all, is changing so much every day. So we're learning so much every day as it is. But in terms of the craft, we have this whole world of Atmos mixing that is, for me, is still this wonderful world of exploration.
I know a lot of people have heard that word Atmos, but what does it mean?
Well, for me, I think you talked about on with your other guests, you have the effects mixer who's dealing with ambiences and cars and all the hard effects and Foley and stuff. On my side, I have dialogue and music. For the most part, dialogue's just coming down the center, with the occasional, walk off of a character. But music is this whole world with Atmos, which is, immersive sound, multiple speakers around the room, behind you, above you, just to the left and and the right of the screen. And you have the ability now to play sound all over the room. And it's been an interesting journey developing that craft, because there aren't a lot of, with all the resources that exist online about music mixing and music gear and post-production gear, there hasn't been a lot of resources until the last couple of years about mixing for Dolby Atmos, until fairly recently, when the whole music community really started embracing it, and until Tidal and Apple Music really got on board with that. So once the music guys really started embracing it, all of these resources are now available online for how to spread music. And it's a whole world that is still fairly new to me, that I'm really excited about continuing to learn about.
I think that may be the other sort of shared trait across everyone in Hollywood, is that never stop learning thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the technology, but it is very much a part of it. But it's stay hungry and keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe the secret to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before you go, anything new you're working on that we should keep our eyes open for?
I'm doing 2 movies. I'm doing a movie for Sam Esmail, one of my big clients, in the fall for Netflix, called Leave the World Behind. That's this wonderful kind of dystopian plot with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke that's going to be a blast.
Nice.
And then I'm going to Sony to do, if everything continues to line up, to do a Judd Apatow movie in February, which hopefully both of these will be in theaters.
Dystopian, sci-fi, and comedy.
Exactly. The perfect combo for me.
Perfect combo. Well, it has been a real pleasure having you here, John.
Thank you so much, Mika.
An honor to steal an hour of your incredibly, incredibly valuable time. And I really look forward to our next project together.
Yeah,
I have
let's
no
get
idea
on the
what that
stage
will
again,
be.
man.
Yeah, let's do it. And either way, I will definitely be popping my head into Stage A at Universal next time I'm on the lot. Say
Always
hello.
good to see you, Mika, and good luck with the podcast. It's an amazing resource for young people wanting to get into the business, and super interesting for all of us just to be able to hear stories from our peers.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mika.
It was such a pleasure introducing you to one of my close friends. Can't wait for you to come back. Click the subscribe button, follow us on social media, and we'll see you next time at The Sounds of Hollywood.